And we have JR on line 1. JR?
Okay, I want to clarify this question.
If you have your TV on, turn it off.
Yeah. Now I want to clarify this question.
Hey, JR?
Yeah.
Hi, thanks for calling. I remember you called our show last week. I wasn't on, but I've listened to the tape. And an issue came up regarding human physiology and where we get our energy from that enables us to move around and stuff. And you asked the question, if human beings ultimately get our energy from the sun, how come we all don't drop dead at night? And the host of the show, Matt, suggested that you go educate yourself and find out what the answer to that question was.
Okay, well, I've done that.
Do you have the answer to that question?
Well, I want to clarify some of the things that I've said regarding this question of the creation of God. Okay. If God is a being that is unlimited in time.
Wait, hold on, JR.
I'm not preaching to you. I'm just giving you the...
JR, hang on, man.
Okay.
There's this hanging issue of your understanding of human physiology, right? You didn't understand how it was that human beings could be alive without some supernatural guy making us move around. And you were asked by the host of the show to go educate yourself on that point. Have you done that? Do you know now what is the scientific explanation for how energy comes from the sun, gets into human beings, and we use it to help us move around?
When you don't, you got to.
But the question would be, how would man be able to determine what all of this existence?
Okay, we're getting some kind of weird interference with your call, JR. So, if it happens again, I guess we're going to have to let you go. But try your question one more time.
Okay. How would man be able to determine what created all of existence?
How would man be able to determine what created all of existence? Okay.
Yes.
Setting aside your use of the word created, because that seems to be loaded with an assumption that there had to be a creator, okay? But if what you're really asking is, how can man determine the explanation for the origins of our universe?
Yes.
If that's really what you're getting at, well, that's what physicists do for a living. And you should ask some physicists.
But they're only human beings.
So? So what?
Okay.
They have great big
only...
super colliders where they take particles and bounce them into each other at very high speeds and analyze the results. And they have other cool instruments that they build to recreate the conditions that existed in those first few nanoseconds of the existence of our universe. And it's by studying stuff like that human beings are able to get those answers that you're asking about.
How can they examine the spiritual realm?
What spiritual realm?
The realm that exists outside of physical realm.
Do you have any evidence of this spiritual realm?
Okay, the evidence now is your life.
No.
That goes back to last week.
Yeah, last week you were puzzled by the scientific explanation for how human beings can actually be alive and move around without some magical thing making us alive, okay? And you were asked by the host of the show to go and educate yourself on that question. Now, there is an answer.
Well, I don't think that he has taken what I told him into consideration. Here you are back again.
Hold on, JR. Here you are back again, not having found out what and learned and understood the scientific explanation, right? And just throwing this same claim out again that the only reason human beings are alive is because of some magical force. Now,
well, I believe in cause and effect.
Yeah.
I believe there's a reason that we all exist.
Cause and effect is not about that kind of reason. Cause and effect is, object A with this much kinetic force runs into object B and that has that mass and it causes object B to move. I mean, that is cause and effect. When you talk about the reason why you're here, once again, you're using loaded language to try to shoehorn your God assumption in the door before you've even addressed the question.
Okay. What I was talking about before, man's intelligence can only expand so far in time. Okay, if God created time, the statement of Genesis in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, is making reference to the creation of time.
Excuse me. Before we will take this whole issue of Genesis and what it says about time seriously, you're going to have to establish that Genesis is actually accurate.
And it's more than just a general book.
And you can't just say it's accurate. We don't think it is. In fact, it looks to us, based on the actual evidence in the universe around us, it looks like Genesis is not accurate. So
okay, how can you make the assumption that God was created?
What's that?
How can you make the assumption that God was created?
We don't make any assumption that God was created. Yeah. We don't believe in any God.
That was the question put on me.
Well, if you believe in a God, you're going to have to account for how it is that he exists. Right?
Well, he exists, and the proof is all around you. If
That's
you would
not,
just look at things that are man-made.
If I say, you know, a particular brand of automobile exists, then it would be fair to ask me, well, how did that particular brand of automobile come into existence, right? That'd be a fair question for me. You are claiming that a God exists. It is fair to ask you, how did your God come into existence?
Well, that's a complex question, but you cannot deny that man did not create the sun and the moon and the stars.
Sure, of course, no, of course we don't deny that. Man did not create any of those things. So what?
Neither did the cosmos. Neither
how
did
do you, whoa, hey, how do you know that?
It's
actually, I disagree with that point. Seems to me all those things are a natural outgrowth of the interplay of natural law. Scientists have answered all the basic questions of how solar systems formed.
Okay, you can debate.
Physicists are still working on those first few nanoseconds of the existence of the universe, right? And they're still working on the question of how it was that got started, right? Those are all open questions in science. But nowhere is there a big hole in our knowledge that needs to be filled by your God. Nowhere.
Well, just because you don't understand this, you should just go ahead and deny the fact that God exists.
We don't deny the fact that God exists. We deny your claim that he exists. Thank you very much for your call.
You haven't proved a single thing, and so you just saying that you can't deny it, it's everywhere. We could say, you know, there is no God. Science proves everything. It's everywhere. Exact same way. So until you've got some evidence to back it up, we're going to dismiss it. We have scientific evidence to back up.
Right, that's the thing. That's the thing. In order for us to take any claim seriously, or that would overturn vast bodies of established knowledge that human beings have painstakingly put together from observing the universe over centuries, right? In order to take some claim that throws all that stuff out the window, to take that claim seriously, you have to prove it. Period.